Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Art of Shame-Free Living podcast. I just about said the Parenting Coach podcast. I had that podcast for 4 years. Also, you can go listen to all those great episodes. They're awesome. Okay, so Art of Shame-Free Living podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about feelings. I want you to think about the last time that you were at an event. Maybe you were listening to somebody speak. Maybe you were talking with a friend. Maybe this happened. Sometimes this happens at churches that I go to when people start speaking and they start to get emotional. And as soon as somebody starts to get a little bit emotional, not necessarily anger, but typically sadness, this happens with, what is the first thing they say when tears come to their eyes or they get so emotional that it's hard for them to speak? Have you never noticed this? They say, "I'm sorry." I want you to think about the significance of that because this happens over and over and over again. Since the very first moment that I started coaching, the very first person that ever cried on a coaching call, which is almost everybody, women started saying this to me. Men have said this to me as well. Like they'll cry and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Or they'll start to get emotional and they say, "I'm so sorry." And I started to notice that this was just like a trend or a theme or whatever you want to call it. Like it's just some human thing that we all do. And then I started to, after I don't know how many years, ponder a little bit more deeply on like, well, what does that mean? If that's what we're saying, what do we believe to be true about our feelings, especially about the big feelings? That there's something that we should be sorry for, that there's something that we shouldn't have, that there's something that's inconvenient or will make someone else uncomfortable, that they're too much for us and for other people, that there's something to be like ashamed or embarrassed about. I think in general is that like our big feelings aren't okay. They're not welcome. They're not accepted. They're not okay. I got to shove them down and pretend like that human part of me isn't human. I may have shared something similar to this before, but I used to think that it was very strong to not have feelings. I prided myself on the fact that I didn't cry, that I wouldn't even cry at sad movies, that I could just like control and hold it all together. I was also a very yelly person too. I don't think I noticed the correlation between that, but yelly people probably need to cry more. But I really felt like I was like holding it all together, controlling it together because I had this very masculine energy view. And I don't mean like male, I mean this masculine energy view of like control and holding it together is better. That's wounded masculine energy, by the way, not healthy masculine energy. But I was definitely taught that. I don't know if it was conscious or if it was unconscious through the years, that be more like a man and like men hold it together more. And that's how to be strong. And I had that in me somewhere deep inside for a long, long time. And it was pretty apparent as soon as I started coaching that emotions were going to come. And I actually hated that that was coming. And I just started to notice this trend of, oh, I cry every time I'm getting coached. And it would happen over and over and over again. And the more I really started to be honest with myself and authentic with who I am and my own self, I started recognizing how I felt about my own feelings, how I viewed my own feelings. I started to be really radically honest with myself. What am I actually feeling in this moment? What am I actually thinking about this? And I started to notice how other people responded as well. And I really do think there's this theme of my feelings will be too much for you, so let me shove them down so that you can feel more comfortable, so that we can stay connected. I actually think this is one of the ways we tried to stay connected as a child. If you've ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's this triangle, right? Self-actualization at the top, our basic needs at the bottom, like food and shelter. And I think that below food and shelter is connection. One of my mentors back years ago, I haven't read a lot of his stuff lately, but I really agree with a lot of what he says, is Dr. Gordon Neufeld. And he said that if you study natural disasters like big tsunamis or forest fires, anything huge where people are in really life-threatening situations, if it was true that the basic needs were like, safety and security needs, then nobody would run back into a fire to save their family. Nobody would go in the tsunami looking for their family, even at the risk of their own life. But the very first thing that they do is look for their family. They go back into danger sometimes to look for their family. And so he postulated that like maybe connection really is this deeper need. So I want to go back to childhood. If connection and attachment are our deepest need, especially because our safety and security needs come through our parents. So like literally for survival, we need to be connected and attached to them in order to be cared for because we're too little to care for ourselves. Then anything that threatens that connection and attachment feels like a no. It's like, oh, I can't do that because that's threatening this connection and attachment, and I need that in order to survive. Connection equals survival as a child. So I want you to think back on that when you were a child. If there was too big of feelings, if there was something that made your parents uncomfortable, if your parents were getting mad about something, you were like, wait, how can I shove this down? We shoved down desire, right? There's probably things that we wanted and our parents were like, nope, 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 not right now, not right now. Shove down desire until now we become adults that are really not comfortable with desire. We don't even really know what we want. We have no idea. Or maybe we were told like, you're hurting my feelings, or you're hurting her feelings, or you're making me mad. Or we were sent to our room every time we freaked out, or whatever it was. They focused more on our behavior and less on the emotion behind the behavior. And then we internally were trying to figure this out as young people. And we're like, wait, my emotions must be too big. This must be my fault. There must be something wrong with me. I shouldn't feel this way, whatever. All of the inadequacy-based beliefs that we have around feelings. And if that's our pattern that we've been programmed with over and over and over and over again, that's like a computer program that is just running. It doesn't mean that it's true. It doesn't mean that it's healthy. It doesn't mean that it's good for us or any of those things, but that program is running. And I want to say that like we can reprogram. We don't have to keep running the same program we have been forever. But I do think it's really helpful to realize that if a program has been running, a pattern has been running for your whole life, for your parents' lives, for your grandparents, for your great-grandparents' lives, it's not going to change overnight. You're not just going to come to one coaching call or one retreat or one, a therapy for even a year or two and just be like, okay, I'm good. Like everything's repatterned, everything's changed. You can find huge, significant changes in a short amount of time. It's probably shorter than what you think. But also I think that process of compassion is partially like slowness. Can I let it be slow? There was a lady at my last retreat who was just like, I just want it to be done quickly. I just want to be at the other side of the tunnel right now. Can you just tell me how long this is going to take? And I said, what if I told you it was going to take 99 years? And she was like, what? And I was like, what if I told you, like, what if you just believed it's going to take me 99 years to get there? Then what? Then how do you show up? Then how do you respond to the healing process? For me, that gives me a sense of ease, a sense of relief. It turns down the dial on the speed of healing, which counterintuitively maybe actually speeds up healing. It's like quantum. That's how you quantum jump, is like not trying to get there so quickly. All this to say, notice next time that you are feeling big feelings, what is your initial response to yourself, to your emotions? The next time you start to cry, what is your very initial response? Do you apologize? Do you feel bad? Do you belittle yourself? Do you try to shove it down? How do you respond? And what does that teach you about maybe how your emotions have been being responded to, both by your caregivers as a child and your inner parent right now as an adult, how you are relating to you? And those are patterns that are absolutely breakable, that are reprogrammable. That is not a program that we have to continue to run. It can also be on the good side of things, I'll say as well. If you think of like achievement, like your parents were really proud of you or gave you a lot of positive accolades and connection and attention when things were achieved, that your achievement often feels like this badge of honor that you need to get in order to feel good about yourself. And I am not saying that this is happening on a conscious level. If you're like, no, that's not why I achieve, really ask yourself, like, what's under that? What do I really care about? What am I really thinking? Be honest with yourself. The only person that loses is you in this radical honesty game, right? How honest can I be with my own self? How deep can I get with my own inner self until I really understand what's at the root of this for real? And you're the only one that can get there. I'll also say another thing after thinking about retreats and everything that came up at the retreat was, I'm not the one with the answers, but I do know that you're the one with the answers. Somebody would ask a question about parenting or something and everybody would give, opinions or advice or different things that worked for them or didn't, right? There's loads of books, loads of podcasts you can listen to, but they might not work for you because nobody knows you and your unique child in the way that you know them. Nobody knows you and your unique situation, even if it's not in parenting, in the way that you know it. And intuition is real. It might feel fluffy. It might feel weird. I don't know how it feels to you, but like it is absolutely real. Intuition knows the future. I wouldn't have been able to guess that this would have been my career. This wasn't even a career to guess if I had 20 years ago been like, I know I will be this. This is what I'll be doing. Intuition knows all of those things. And so if you start to ask that intuitive heart space, body space, feeling, gut feeling, however you want to explain it, those answers are real and they will give you the next little breadcrumb and the next little breadcrumb until eventually you find your way at the end of something and you look back and you're like, wow, that was such a circuitous path. There's no way I could have logically figured that out. So if you find yourself spending a lot of time and energy and intent trying to solve things in your logical mind, I would invite you just to move down into the body, into that intuitive space, into that gut feeling space, into that heart feeling space. What is tapping on your heart? What does your heart have to say? What answers are coming to you that feel like they're from your feelings, that are from a deeper space within you, from your soul space, from your heart space, from your body space, and listen to those more. Okay, that's all. That's all for today. We'll see you next week. Thanks for being here. And if you love these episodes, or if somebody comes to mind as you're listening, I would love for you to share it. Share this work. Spread this goodness of feelings and healings with someone in your life that you love. See you next time.